All right, joining me at this time is an actress named Melissa Marino. She's with me
Yeah,
right now. Hey, how's it going?
not bad. How are you?
I'm doing real good. I want to take this time and thank you for being on the show this evening. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, I hear that you're an actress courtesy of, as a client for World Entertainment Agency, and we'll get into your involvement with them a little bit later in the interview. But I want to start off by asking what made you decide to become an actress?
Um, I was always pretty shy in elementary school and middle school. I always kind of kept to myself. I was really into watching what was going on around me and kind of listening more so than participating. But I went to see my neighbors. I remember I was in fifth grade, and I went to see my neighbors across the street. They invited me to come see a play that they were doing for their summer camp. And I remember watching them on stage and thinking, I think I can do that. And I remember telling my mom that, and she thought I was crazy because I was the kind of kid that didn't play on the playground. I didn't join in with other people. I was always kind of keeping to myself and sitting next to my mom, and she kind of thought I was crazy, but she was like, you know what? Maybe you can. So the next summer, I was enrolled in a theater camp, and it it ended up being my thing. Once I got on stage, I really kind of broke out of my shell, and I realized that becoming a character, this might kind of be a little sad to say, but it was easier for me to become a character and take a character and mold it almost more than it was to be myself. That has changed over the years. I'm very comfortable with myself now, and I love who I am and who I've become. But how I got into acting was because I was so shy and almost like reclusive and antisocial that becoming somebody else was easier for me. And that's honestly how I got into it. And then a few of my friends from theater started taking film classes, and then I decided that I loved being in front of the camera because it's more personal. Character development is when you're on stage, it has to be big and bold and out there, whereas on film and television, it's more interpersonal and development and less about worrying about entertaining the people in front of you and more about focusing on developing a character for an audience to enjoy and grow with. So that's a really long-winded answer, and I apologize, but I had to give you the full story to give you a decent answer, if that makes sense.
Actually, it does make sense, and you don't have to apologize at all. I mean, clearly by talking to you, you have overcome your shyness, and
Yeah,
when it comes to acting and all, I mean, that's the last thing you need is to be shy, because
right,
you're gonna be in front of a camera, and you have to remember your lines. You got to go through the plots and everything, and
right.
so I give you kudos for overcoming that and see how far you have come to where you are today as an actress. Um, so that being said, was there anything that stood out to you as far as whether it was a role, whether it was a meeting, or maybe it was a script that you're reading? That one thing that, I guess, a highlight, if you will, that made you overcome, that made you feel more confident, more comfortable into, you know, being an actress and overcoming your shyness?
Um, a particular role, I would say one of the first films that I was ever credited in was a film called Douglas U. And it was one of the first roles I booked when I moved out to Los Angeles, which was 4 years ago. I've since moved back to the East Coast. When I first moved to LA, it was one of the first jobs that I booked. And I remember going into the audition, and I was extremely nervous because, I was auditioning for a director, and his name is Ryan Minningham, and he's a pretty well-known director, and I was really nervous, and I had the script, and I had my lines memorized to the T. I knew them inside and out, and I got into the audition room, and my reader started reading lines that didn't match the ones that I had. And they realized that they had given me the wrong script for the wrong role. So they handed me a new script and gave me about 3 minutes to read it over. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm ever going to book this role. This is spur of the moment. This is basically improv. And the character's name was Joanne. And she was really an over-the-top, typical, bubbly girl from California. And I was just like, I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to wing it. And I went in there, and I didn't even use the script. And I completely improvised the whole thing. And I got done, and they all just kind of looked at me, the director and the casting director, and they were like, that was really good. And they're like, we actually liked that a lot better than what we wrote. And I think because the character itself was so different than who I am, I'm not super bubbly, I'm not super girly, I'm not super over the top by any means, but because it was such an opposite character of who I actually am, it worked. I just did it, and that was the most out of my shell I've ever gone, because it was so spur of the moment, and that was a big turning point in my career, knowing that you can take those chances in an audition. You don't necessarily have to always follow the rules, and sometimes taking a chance and doing things that are a little different than what you're supposed to can pay off. And since that audition, I've used that technique a few times, and it's actually gotten me some pretty cool roles and auditions, and thinking out of the box, and has gotten me, opportunity to meet people, and, in all aspects of my life, not even just in entertainment, in anything, regular job interviews, meeting people, making friends. That mentality that I've developed has helped in a lot of different aspects of my life. So that was definitely a defining moment for me. It was the moment that I was like, you know what? I think I kind of understand how this business works now. You have to think outside the box.
I definitely find that very interesting, as far as the audition, how it all went. Because usually, I guess they give you script and you read it in front of them just to see how you will look, or whatever. But they did something different. They pretty much threw you a curveball.
They did.
And do you think that was intentional, or do you think it was accidental, or do you think it was intentional, just to see how would you handle if things didn't go the way that you had in
I
mind?
think I think what happens is when a casting director gets your picture, a picture can only say so much. And I think when you walk into that room and they actually see your personality and they see you in person, even if it's just for a few seconds, it might click with them that, wow, you know what? Change of pace. Now that we've seen you in person, you're better for this role. And they're not going to go through that and explain that to you. They're just going to be like, hey, we have an idea. Read for this one instead. So I think it may or may not have been an intentional curveball, but it was definitely a curveball that worked in my favor. I'd like to think that maybe it was my personality that ended up getting me the role that I ended up booking. But you never know. And that is actually part of what I like about the industry. It's always changing, and you never really know what people are thinking. And I don't know, there's some kind of excitement in that to me.
Well, they say the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward,
Yeah,
and in the end, it worked out for you, and you got the role, and that's saying something. And I guess they want to show some, they want to show who has that versatility, and clearly you shown that, and that's why you got the role, and you haven't looked back ever since. Um,
right.
so there was a variety of genres in filming, the TV shows as well. You have your comedy, you have your action, you have your drama, you have the romance and things like that. What do you consider the type of TV shows slash films you enjoy doing the most, as far as the genre? What are the type of genre, type of TV shows and films you enjoy doing the most?
I enjoy comedy. I do. I think the character development in comedy is there's nothing like it. When you look at a show like The Big Bang Theory, and when you watch season one versus the current season, and you see how characters developed over time and aged and created rapport with each other, there's nothing like it. And versus you have that when you watch a drama series, take a series like Criminal Minds, season one versus the current season. And yes, the characters have developed and the acting is great and all of that, but there's something about a sitcom, whether it's Friends, Seinfeld, The Big Bang Theory, Two and a Half Men, when you go back, because I love doing this on Netflix especially, like if you have a cold or you're not feeling well, you sit down and you watch season one of a show from like the early 2000s, and you're like, wow, they've really come a long way. And for me, there's my dream would to be to book a role on a sitcom, even if it's a small role. And I know that's every actor's dream, but I just think it would be so rewarding in so many ways to be given a character and just to have that opportunity to mold it into something that every week people can tune in and watch. What's that character going to do this week, and what are they going to say, and how are they going to mature and grow? And so for me, I think comedy is definitely my forte, and it's also where I feel the most comfortable in, I would say.
I will say that what I like the most about comedy is that you have a chance to. That may kind of go back to the improv that you was talking about a little bit earlier. You may read a script sometimes, or you may just look at something different and you just come up with a joke or a line or whatever, see how it fits the character or fits the scene. And I guess
Right.
I could see why you like the comedy, because maybe in that aspect you could do some sort of improv to it as far as comedy is
Yeah,
concerned.
with comedy, there's a lot of room to, especially if you have with like a director and a writer. With comedy, there's more room to work with a writer and a director to be like, you know what? I feel like in this moment, this is what would fly out of this character's mouth, and this is what I feel like in this particular moment, the look that they would give. And with comedy, you have that space and that outlet more so than with drama, because drama is very much about the words that are coming out of the character's mouth. Whereas comedy is it's about what you're saying, but it's also about what you're doing and your physicality and your facial expression. And I love combining all of that stuff in entertainment piece. So yes, I would say that improv definitely falls under that category in being able to be more expressive with your acting in comedy for sure.
So Melissa, what I want to ask is, since we're entering the third month of the new year and all, do you have any up and coming projects that you're working on that you are able to discuss that you have coming up?
I did book it's right now it is a comedy and it's untitled at the moment, but it's being shot at Paramount. And I'm not really allowed to disclose a title or a director at the moment, but it's a mob comedy, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's based off of the 1960s film Some Like It Hot. It's written, and it'll be shot in a very similar style, over the top. Um, you know, characters. The characters in it are great. You have um, your classic mobsters, your new age mobsters, you have your typical Italian wives, you have your over the top prostitutes, and then you have your, under the table shady characters. It's going to be a really fun project, and we start shooting at the end of the summer, and it'll most likely be produced through a Paramount subsidiary in New York and Baltimore, and I'm super pumped about it. And I've gotten to read the script. I don't have the script in hand yet because it's they're not distributing it yet, but I have read it, and it's going to be so much fun. And I can't wait for it to be put up on IMDb so people can start reading about the synopsis and whatnot, because it's going to be a cool project. It's going to be very different than any movie that's been out in recent memory, which I think is what Hollywood needs right now. They need some new concepts, some different concepts, and this is definitely going to be one of them.
So for people that wants to book Melissa to TV shows or films or interviews, appearances, things of that nature, you can contact her managers at World Entertainment Agency. She's one of the new clients as part of the agency. Go to worldentertainmentagency.com and you can email Troy and Craig, or you can email them both. They usually get the emails anyway. If you email one of them, it's not going to matter, but just saying, you email them for Melissa, book her into some films and TV shows, appearances, interviews, etc. And you two can go on from there. So, Melissa, what would your advice be to anyone out there that wants to get into the acting industry, that wants to pursue as an actor or an actress? What would your advice be?
My advice would be educate yourself, and meaning make sure you learn the basics. Take every seminar, every acting class that you can with legitimate people, with casting directors, agents, managers. Educate yourself. There's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of people trying to take advantage of, especially young women. There's just so much, give us $100 and we'll take pictures of you, this and that. That's not how it works. Educate yourself first and foremost. Know what you're getting yourself into. And once you're educated and you know what's going down, then don't ever give up. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm just starting to make some leeway. Don't give up. Go to every audition, even if it's just a student film, if it's unpaid. No audition is a bad audition. Every audition is an experience. Every audition is a learning step. It's a stepping stone. And as long as you keep at it and you keep educating yourself and you take steps in the proper direction, you're gonna get knocked down every once in a while, but you just gotta get back up. You gotta get a thick skin, and people are gonna try to knock you down, and you just gotta smile and keep on pushing through. It's the person that perseveres the longest will be the person that becomes the most successful. And don't ever give up. Don't ever let somebody tell you that you need to have a backup plan. if this is what you want to do, then make it your only plan. That would be my best advice. If it's what you want to do, you got to go for 110%. And don't let anybody, you know, tell you that you can't or that it's silly. Or if it's your passion, then do it. Do it, do it, do it.
And those were wise words. Such wisdom from Miss Melissa Marino, a decade strong. I mean, the woman talked about how shy she was as a young child, and look at her now. So I'm just saying, if you can do it, you have to set your mind to it, and more importantly, do your research, because there are some people that want to act like they're someone, but they
Yes,
obviously
for
are
sure.
not. So, you know, look, internet is bigger than ever now. All you gotta do is
Yes,
Google a person's name and to see if this person's legit or not.
right.
And if Google don't work, call people. Look around. Look for just dig deep. Dissect the situation at hand. Dissect this person to see if this person is legit or not, or people or group or companies or whatever. Uh,
Exactly.
so you mentioned IMBD. You have a page there for people could check out your previous work and up and
Yes.
coming work. Do you have any other social media links like on Facebook or Twitter that people need to check out?
I don't have Twitter. I do have a Facebook, and it's linked through the um, World Entertainment Agency's website. You can get the link to my Facebook through that website.
All right, well, Melissa, it was great chatting with you.
You as well.
Thank you so much for your time, and everybody be on the lookout for her up and coming projects. And again, if you want to book her, go to worldentertainmentagency.com. Contact Troy and Craig. They will take care of the booking, and everybody will go on from there. Again, thank you, Melissa, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Continued success, and another 10 years for you. Um,
Thank you so much.
you have a great night. Have a great weekend.
You as well. You
Uh,
as well.
all right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
That was Melissa Marino joining me here on Chilling with Jeffrey Kenny C. And as we continue